Just had the latest numbers handed down in terms of unemployment, 3.4% it's down to, the lowest since 1974. Will this finally mean a tightening of the jobs market? Joining me now is Andrew McKellar with the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Your take on this? It was interesting to note 86,000 permanent jobs lost, 45,000 I think, or 46,000 casual. So the net jobs gone, but the participation rate a bit down. Are we going to see a tightening now at 3.4%? We've got even underemployment down, so people that want work are certainly getting it.
Look, I think the main themes remain very consistent. We have the tightest labour market in around 50 years, so notwithstanding the month-to-month variations, the reality is over the past year we've added just under 400,000 jobs, 398,000 jobs created. 392,000 of those have been full-time. So I think, that's a measure of what's going on in the labour market. These are good, full-time, secure jobs that have been created over that period. We have a very tight labour market, and now we've really got to look at what we can do on participation, how we can address some of those labour and skills shortages.
The gap between wages and inflation now, wages at 2.6, inflation at 6.1. That's too big a gap for the workers to shoulder for very long, isn't it?
Well, look, it's obviously an issue, but I think one of the things that we've got to look at here is, is that wage price index really telling the full picture? It's a very narrow measure. It's just basically picking up, ordinary earnings and ordinary time. There's no account for compositional changes in the nature of work that people are doing, or the extra compensation they're getting in some cases.
So I think you don't think this is a true figure?
I don't think it's the best measure if we're looking at real wages.
What's it missing out? Can you give me a specific example of a worker that's getting some other form of remuneration that's not picked up here?
Look, so it doesn't pick up, bonuses and overtime measures, these sorts of things. You need to look at a broader measure, because I think now, as people are changing jobs quite often, what they're doing is they're being able to boost their remuneration going from one job to the next.
Well, it should pick up that. I mean, if your remuneration changes, it picks it up. But what are you saying? There may be a sign-on bonus that's not included.
Well, so there are things like that as well, which aren't included in those figures.
So you want an overhaul for the way this is done?
I think if we're going to really understand what's going on in the labour market at the moment, you'll find that, in fact, many employers are lifting wages more than is showing up in that wage price.
Through other elements. It might be, training, it might be food included in it. If you work at a cafe, we'll give you free food on shifts, anything along those lines?
There's a whole range of different things that employers are doing to keep and attract new workers, and I think that's not really been picked up in the wage price.
So have you called? Speaking to people about changing the way it's actually?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think there are better measures that we can look at. There are better ways of understanding what's going on out there in the.
When you push for a change or including other elements, you're told it's too complicated. We're not going to do.
Well, I think this is a measure that is out there that people are commonly using. We just need to understand the shortcomings with that particular analysis, and I think we do need to. And ultimately, we will see that measure picking up. I'm sure we'll see that grow.
But is it just a complexity thing? Because you say, well, it's just one measure, but it's the measure everyone looks at. It's an independent measure. I see all day, different people are posting on Twitter, here's a new figure when we include this, or we strip out mining, whatever it might be.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing with statistics. So understanding what's happening out there in the labour market at the moment, remuneration is an issue, and look, real wages are an issue. But I think we've got to understand that there are a lot of pressures on employers at the moment, and in many cases they're responding.
Unions want to look at the skilled migrant visa as part of the Jobs and Employment, etc. Summit coming up, Skills Summit. The eligibility to get that visa at the moment is $53,900 a salary, which is well below even an average salary in Australia, and it's been frozen for nearly 10 years. It needs to increase, doesn't it?
Well, and we've said we're happy to look at some level of increase. We think somewhere around 59,000, 60,000 is realistic. We see in what the unions have published yesterday, they're talking about taking it up to 90,000 or even a bit over that. That's too much. And the problem this creates is that for many areas where there are critical shortages of skills and labour, that the remuneration that you're looking at will be under that 90,000 figure. And this is particularly the case in some industries and in regional areas. And if we knock those out, then what we're going to do is we're going to have a much worse problem on our hands.
Could you have a dual one where that salary is set higher in a city versus a regional area, for example?
In fact, that's the kind of thing we're arguing for, is that there should be, I guess, a broader array of thresholds and measures that can be looked at. We shouldn't be just knocking out on the basis of some aggregated measure.
But that, even if you're negotiating on that and the city one's a bit higher than you'd like, as long as the regional one stays a bit lower.
Yeah, we've got to retain that flexibility, and I think what was proposed yesterday just is too restrictive. It won't work.
You're in discussions about Jobs and Skills Australia, a body to sort of look at this in Australia with the unions. How's that discussion going?
Look, very well. I think on this, actually, there's quite a lot of common ground and agreement. We're quite optimistic that this new independent body, will serve a very valuable function. So provided, it has the ability to take that information, provide advice, look at what's happening really at all levels of industry, then I think we're quite optimistic that it's a good measure.
What's the simple way of describing this? That it is able to look at, and I guess in real time, really quickly, is the crucial element. Where are our skills needed? And then advising the government on whether that means they should offer, I don't know, subsidised courses in something, get Australians in the work, a skilled migrant visa specifically in one particular area, whatever it might be, just to make sure these are being addressed, not every 5 years, but, shortages pop up in 6 months sometimes.
Look, I think it's being responsive. I think it's having that broader perspective and getting that flexibility and that detail down to that.
Because a lot of the skills you can train up for pretty quickly, right? Some of them might take a few years, but some of them 6 months or a year.
Sure.
And suddenly you can have people out there in the fields that are needed.
I think it's been more responsive. So we're encouraged by that.
All right. Andrew McKellar, thanks for your time today.
Great. Thanks for